Hello everyone and welcome to my channel again. Today we'll be learning how to balance the gimbal. I have right here the RS Mini by DJI and I'll be using the Canon 4000D as the camera I'll be balancing the gimbal on. It's not what I use normally. I use my Canon R50 to shoot videos, but I'll be using the 4000D to demonstrate how to balance the gimbal. This is my first time of balancing the 4000D on the gimbal with the kit lens that came with it, the 18 to 55mm kit lens, and this is the first time, so we're gonna have fun together. All right, without much further ado, let's dive in. So guys, as I said, we will be balancing the Canon 4000D with the with the 18 to 55mm kit lens that came with it on the RS3 Mini. So most of us will be balancing this camera on this gimbal, but it's just the same process. If you can follow this, then you can do that for any camera at all. But one thing I would say is that you should add all your weights on the camera first before starting to balance at all. So if you want to add an external screen on your camera, that's also fine. You can easily add the external screen on the camera first before going ahead to do that. Maybe if you want to add it, but if you want to add it on the side of the gimbal, you can do that after balancing. Or if it's going to be on the camera, anything at all, maybe the microphone is going to be on the camera, you've got lights that's going to be on the camera on the hot shoe, then I'd say you should add that first. Add all the weight to the camera first before going ahead to balance your gimbal. So another thing I'm going to say is try to understand what you're balancing on the gimbal. The weight of the camera, the lens that you're attaching to the camera. So if it's a very heavy lens, there's every tendency that the front of that camera is going to be heavier than the back of the camera. If it's a light lens like this one, there's every tendency that this camera is going to be heavier than this is a kit lens, so it's heavy. It's mostly plastic, like that. And another thing, if you're working with a different if you're working with a different lens, if it's not a prime lens, I'll say again, if it's not a prime lens and it's a zoom lens, and there's a particular range you want to use, a particular focal length you want to use, maybe the 55, which is the maximum for this one, I'll advise you zoom out first before even starting to place the camera on your gimbal. So without wasting too much time, I'll say let's dive straight in. So first thing we'll do, we unlock this bit here and push this button here. There's a silver button here. Just push the button here to take the plate off. So if you watch this plate very well, it has a bit here. So this is what I'll do. I'll connect that bit, this edge here. Okay, I think that's better. You can see there's a protruding part here. So you fix that protruding part on the edge of your camera this way. So and put that, you try to tighten that, fasten it as much as you can. That's it. That's the plate in place. That's a quick release plate in place. So when that's in place, you can place this now on the gimbal and we can start balancing the gimbal. Next thing is how to balance the gimbal. But before we go into that, I want you to acquaint yourself with the different axes we have on the gimbal. I use the TRP as a reference for myself. It's not like it's way too necessary. No, it's not. But if you can know what it is, maybe you want to teach someone else and explain to someone else, you can use the same method that I use in remembering what they are. So that's the tilt axis, that's the roll axis, and that's the pan axis. So the base axis is called the pan axis. This middle part is called the it's called the roll axis, and this other part here is called the tilt axis. Okay, the first thing I'll do is to unlock this part, the roll axis, as the middle part, just to straighten my camera up. So right now you can see the camera is facing up because this part is locked. So as soon as I unlock the tilt axis, you see what it's doing. It's rolling backwards. You see what it's doing? It's rolling backwards. So I don't want it to roll backwards. What I want it to do is anywhere I leave the camera, anywhere I leave the camera, it should stay in that position. So while keeping both the roll axis and the pan axis locked, I want to balance just the tilt axis first. So we'll go with the TRP way. So we want to balance just the tilt axis first. So what do we do? How do we balance this stuff? So it's a backward and forward mechanism. It's either tilt backward or it tilts forward, right? So over here is where the adjustment bar is. We have the adjustment bar on this side. So what you do is unlock the adjustment bar. So if it's tilting backwards, you will move the camera forward, right? And if it's tilting forward, you move the camera backwards. Okay, so what you want to do is to attain equilibrium on that side. So this is how we achieve that. I'll try to keep the camera like this so you can see. Sorry, I'm using a very small studio, so it's a little bit tricky here. So try to make fine adjustments. This is tilting backwards, so I'll have to move the camera forward a little bit. It's still tilting backwards. I'll move the camera forward. So I'll say that's close to it. I wouldn't say that's it yet until I try to tilt the camera and see if it stays in that position. You can see it's not staying in that position just yet. So maybe fine adjustment backward and fine adjustment forward might just help. So I take that back a little bit. You see what it's doing right there, right? So move it forward again and backward. Okay, so that's more like it now. I turn the camera this way. I turn the camera this way, it stays that way. I turn it that way, it stays that way. I turn the camera that way, it stays, okay, it's going forward a little bit. And I turn it backward, it stays that way. Turn it that way, it's going that way. So if it stays this way and it's not having that aggressive movement, I'll say you should leave it that way, okay? And we're going to lock the tilt axis, lock the adjustment bar, and lock the tilt axis, yeah? So the next thing we're going to do is to unlock the roll axis. So one thing about the roll axis is the sideways distribution of the weight of your camera and the lens. The sideways distribution of the weight. If it's too much on this side, it's going to tilt towards that end. If it's too much on this side, it's going to tilt towards this end. Right now, I think it's balanced because it's anywhere I tilt it to, it stays that way. If I tilt it to this end, it stays that way. If I tilt it to this end, it stays that way, right? So I'm just going to leave the roll axis as balanced just now. Okay, lastly, the part of the gimbal that's not balanced is the pan axis, right? The pan axis is not balanced. So let's try to balance the pan axis now. Yeah, what you do first is to unlock the pan axis. Unlock the pan axis and hold the gimbal with the screen or the analog button facing you and tilt the pan axis to a 90 degrees to the screen or to the analog button. So if it bounces back up, what you do is to pull this the pan bar backwards or to pull the pan bar outwards. But if it bounces right back, goes straight to the other side, you push it inwards. Okay, so I'm going to unlock this. So what we're trying to achieve here is this stays at an angle, a 90 degrees angle to the analog button or to the screen if you're using the DJI RS Mini. So I just pulled it back because it was bouncing straight up, yeah, and now it's going back all the way. So what I'm going to do is to make an adjustment and push it inside. Now it's coming right back again. I'll try to pull it outwards again. All right, so it's now at 90 degrees to the analog button. If you can't see that, that's just how to balance a gimbal. Then you lock this. Okay, so you unlock all the axes, unlock the pan axis, unlock the roll axis, unlock the tilt axis. Now you see the tilt axis is not so balanced, but we'll see if it's balanced. When we calibrate it, we'll see if it works for us, yeah? So start calibrating. So it's 100% calibrated now, and yep. And that's it. That's how you balance the gimbal. So you can use the gimbal anytime. Works fine. You can see the green spot there. That means it's very well calibrated. If it's not balanced, it's going to be red. Anywhere you tilt it to, it's going to be red because the weight is not evenly distributed. But now it's evenly distributed. Now you have a balanced gimbal, and that's it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.